Number 1, the body count is always bigger. Number 2, the death scenes are always much more elaborate. More blood, more gore. Carnage, candy. Your core audience just expects it. And number 3, if you want your sequel to become a franchise, never, ever, under any circumstances, assume the killer is dead.
This is We Bleed Orange and Black, the podcast for Halloween and horror lovers. Join us as we interview creators, discuss our favorite horror, and share original spooky stories. I'm Jeff C. Carter, and this week we're talking with Brian McAuley about his new book, CAIN Kills Again, The Second Slaying. Returning champion Brian McAuley is a WGA screenwriter whose produced credits range from family sitcoms to horror films. His debut novel, Curse of the Reaper, was named one of the best horror books of 2022 by Esquire. His short fiction and nonfiction have appeared in Dark Matter, Nightmare, Shortwave, and Monstrous Magazine. Brian teaches as a clinical assistant professor of screenwriting at the Sidney Poitier New American Film School of Arizona State University. Welcome back to the show, Brian.
Thanks so much for having me back, Jeff.
How was your Halloween?
Oh, it was wonderful. As you mentioned, I teach at ASU, and it was very funny because weeks in advance, I had colleagues reaching out to me and saying like, hey, Halloween, can you come do a special guest lecture on spooky stuff? And I was like, said yes to all of them, of course. And then went trick-or-treating. And yeah, it was a busy one, but it was super fun.
Yeah, it seems like your whole 2024 has been fairly busy.
It's been very busy. Yeah, teaching full time and writing. And I've been grateful to get to do some events. All of it just like getting to talk story in any capacity is a dream. So the fact that that's my job on every front is great.
We made some predictions on horror trends in our conversation last year. What do you think the trends are going to be in horror? I said folk horror. You said diversity from fiction and more capital W weird horror. How do you think you did?
Ooh, yeah, I think all of those predictions are accurate. Definitely, we've seen some more weird horror and a lot more diversity, which I'm happy to see. But I feel like movies have also gotten weirder and there's more room for weird, which I love. I think that there's so much more spectacle in the theatrical experience. Even Terrifier 3, which is like, it's a Christmas slasher, like we'll be talking about today, but also it's super weird and strange, and people seem to be more accepting of that.
All right, Randy's rules of a sequel. Number 1, the body count is always bigger. Number 2, the death scenes are always much more elaborate, more blood, more gore, carnage candy. Your core audience just expects it. And number 3, if you want your sequel to become a franchise, never, ever, under any circumstances, assume the killer is dead.
Yep. I'll be lying if I didn't revisit those before writing CAIN Kills Again. It's a scary prospect as a creative to be like, okay, I'm going to commit to doing a sequel here. And gratefully, the first book did well enough that Alan, that shortwave, asked me if I was interested. But that question of like, is it worth rolling the dice that like, could this be worthwhile? Will it up the ante enough? And so I knew going into this that I had to follow those rules, that more bodies and even more over-the-top creative kills, and certainly Candy Cane, increasingly unkillable.
Candy Cane Kills Again. You're bringing the unhinged sequel energy that we expect and that we love. What were some of your touchstones from the vast world of horror sequels?
So weirdly, my biggest touchstone was not necessarily a horror movie. Well, one touchstone which was to say, in sequel fashion, this is going to be the Halloween 2 to Halloween notion, where it picks up immediately where the first one left off.
What's going on out here?
Call the police. Tell the sheriff I shot him. Tell him
He's still on the loose.
Is this some kind of joke? I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight.
You don't know what death is.
But instead of Halloween 2, he follows Laurie Strode to a hospital, and it's more of the night he came home. The first book ends on Christmas morning, and it's going to be Christmas Day at the church instead of a hospital. So I knew that going in. And then the other touchstone, though, was to say, if the first book was kind of Black Christmas vibes of a sort of home invasion energy, this one's going to be a bit more like The Crow. That was my main reference point of it's going to be this kind of dark gothic revenge story. And I knew that once I started developing and I realized that Candy Cane was going to be the focal point and we were going to get her perspective much more in this book just to give it a different flavor and a different kind of structure.
That is really interesting. I did not pick up on that, but I am a huge Crow fan. Fun fact. Did you know that the tracks in Hangman's Joke tease the actions of the film?
No, what?
There's like a brief glimpse where they're picking up Eric Draven's record. You can see the names of the songs describe the action that occurs throughout the film. There's one that's like New Boots. The first thing the Crow does, like he rolls off of a roof into a dumpster, finds boots, and he puts them on. All that stuff is in the tracks for Hangman's
Oh my
Joke.
God, I never knew that. Now I'm desperate to rewatch. I mean, I was obsessed with that movie growing up. And that's such a cool detail that I've never noticed. And I just love that energy of the vengeance from beyond the grave of it all. And, you know, that movie culminates in a church showdown. So that was why it was, for me, it felt like a reference point. And also, like, the heart of that movie is love, which I love about it. And I love about a lot of horror in general is that there's a lot of brutal mayhem, but like, it's a love story at its core.
If the people we love are stolen from us, the way to have them live on is to never stop loving them. Buildings burn, people die, but real love is forever.
I knew you had to take a different tact with the sequel to justify it, make it fresh, put a new top spin on it. But going to The Crow makes perfect sense, and that's so awesome. I love that story so much. It's so propulsive, like Candy Cane Kills Again is propulsive. Yeah, those two touchstones are magnificent. We get her POV and her inner monologue in this book. Was that always in the cards? Did you want to humanize her or get her half of the backstory?
Yeah, it was once I started plotting out some of the stuff that came first for the sequel were the death set pieces. And I started to realize again that it was this kind of vengeance streak. And one thing I realized in doing that I could do differently from the first book is in the first book, the murders almost, I think always actually, happen from the perspective of the victim. And I decided for this book, those kill scenes are going to happen from Candy Cane's perspective, that she's going to be the one doing the killing and we're going to get her experience in that vengeance. And it also gave me the opportunity to delve into flashbacks to give a sort of subplot of how Candy Cane was raised before everything went down at that house on Christmas. So it was an interesting kind of balancing act of there's the people who survived the first book have their story. Candy Cane has her present tense vengeance story. And tied to that is a backstory that's unfolding through flashbacks to inform why she's seeking vengeance. And I didn't know until a revision that it was going to be first person. Her chapters initially, I think I wrote as third person. And then for various reasons, I was like, why don't I just fully commit and get directly into this character's brain? And that felt like the right place to be.
Last time we talked about how everyone got to bring their own unique perspective to the story, and we saw it from all the different angles. I was really intrigued that we got just basically two cameras. There was one on all the other characters sort of squabbling amongst themselves, and everyone was all together all the time. And then there was that other track, which was Candy Cane's POV. It felt so different. It felt like a different director.
Oh, that's a cool perspective. That, yeah, I like the notion of thinking of it as a directing choice of where is the camera and who are we focused on. And, you know, those group chapters have their own kind of focal character, but like you said, they're all so bunched together. And this movie, I almost said, this book, you know, it picks up where the first one left off, which is kind of in fifth gear and doesn't really stop. So that was part of it too, was that the first book had a little bit more first act energy to set up before the mayhem kicks off. But this was just like, nope, full steam ahead from the start, picking up these characters on the fly, which was something I was always conscious of keeping that pace going the whole way through.
You switched up the music.
Yes.
Not so many Christmas carols, a lot more creepy church songs. Did any of these disturb you and linger from your early church-going days, or did you just look up creepiest church songs of all time?
Yeah, I mean, there were some from my church days. Even like the Peace on Earth, Goodwill to Men song has some weird, disturbing lyrics in it that played into it. And that was a choice as, okay, the first book was Christmas carols. This will be church hymns. But then I did do deeper research and included some hymns that I had not personally heard growing up, including one that was titled, Alas, and Did My Savior Bleed? And those lyrics were brutal. So I was like, well, this is easy to incorporate. But yeah, I thought it would be fun to still have the sing-song element, but to take a different track with it, considering the church setting, and felt appropriate.
It's packed full of bangers. Are you going to have another playlist?
Yes. I have multiple playlists that I'm trying to put out now because, there's so many songs in general that I love that touch on these kinds of themes, but all those hymns create their own soundtrack for sure.
You're a musician. Have you considered performing any of these to publicize the book?
I did on Pub Day for the first book and the second book do kind of Christmas carols that I rewrote with candy cane infused into it. Beyond that, I haven't, but I have an event December 20th at Doylestown Bookshop in Pennsylvania. Nat Cassidy will be joining me, and I will be bringing my guitar to that to play some tunes, but I don't think it will be church hymns.
Are you guys going to go head to head? Are you and Nat going to cut heads?
I'm not trying to put him on the spot, but I'm, letting him know that there will be a guitar, and we're gonna let's see if we can. Yeah.
Oh man, that's going to be amazing. Since we last spoke, I had a chance to pick up Curse of the Reaper, your first novel. I loved it. It was itself a love letter to the entire slasher genre that didn't just regurgitate all the favorite tropes we know and love. It really elevated it and really surprised me. I was going to say, which I wasn't expecting. If I was expecting it, it would not have surprised me. It was really psychological and really creepy, such a page turner. That was your catharsis for the trauma of Hollywood, correct?
Yes, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
Is Candy Cane Kills Again your catharsis of the trauma of growing up with some religiosity?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and thank you for the kind words on Curse the Reaper. That being my debut, I feel like it infused a lot of my disillusionment with Hollywood. Yeah, the goal was kind of to write a psychological horror novel about slashers. And then with Candy Cane, I was like, well, this is going to be a true blue slasher. And I didn't really know going into it how much religious trauma was going to be a part of it. And then I wrote the first draft and I was like, cool. I guess this is what we're doing. And then as if it wasn't enough, I was like, let's do a sequel set in a church. If it wasn't enough in the first book. I love that about writing. It really, truly is cathartic. And what makes it exceptionally cathartic is when readers get to pick it up, and anybody who's had a brush with Hollywood reads Curse of the Reaper can share with me what they related to. And certainly with the Candy Cane books, of their religious trauma comes in many, many forms from many different religions and outlets. And in many ways, the book, I tried to kind of pull from different, not just my experience. I was raised Catholic, but the Church of Nodland is technically not a Catholic church. It's something else. And so I did do research and to pull from different religions. Yeah, so far early readers have been responding to that. I think there's been a lot more religious horror coming out these days, which is not surprising given the religious horrors happening in our country. What I always love about horror is that as a writer, you get catharsis, and then readers get catharsis, and then they share it back with you, and it's extra cathartic.
Do you think you have said all you have to say about the slasher genre between a true blue slasher, a sequel, and a meta novel about it? Or is this now just an obsession?
Oh man, I can't stop. Yeah, my next novel is also a slasher, but it's kind of a different ilk. I think Curse the Reaper was the biggest sort of commentary on the genre, whereas the Candy Cane books are just playing within that sandbox. And my next novel is more of the murder mystery slasher structure, which is a bit of a different beast. But for me, structuring a story where somebody gets creatively and brutally murdered every number of pages is just, to me, it's too much fun to give up so far. I haven't gotten tired of it yet.
If they tapped you to write another episode of Fuller House, would you be like, okay, page 7, someone needs to die in some terrible way? Wait. Hold on,
We
Brian.
have to. I mean, look, it's probably going to be Kimmy Gibbler as the killer. I'm just saying, she's a wild card.
Kimmy ate tainted pork. Except she did not eat tainted pork. She's drunk.
You can submit it, and they can note it to death, I suppose. They can't blame you for trying.
Exactly.
This book is chock full of church ladies and their ilk. And a lot of these are great. I don't know, something about it just is very Stephen King-esque. These characters that you recognize immediately. From anyone who's ever been to church or worked in any kind of group setting, or even belonged to a PTA or had to work in an office. There's just a certain type of person. You draw them cleanly and you draw them well. Are any of these inspired by people you know?
Some of them, taking little bits and pieces of people from my upbringing and kind of mashing them up together. But it's interesting. Yeah, no character is really a one-to-one reference point.
For legal reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
So how was the response to the first book? I know what I observed, which seemed to be a very enthusiastic response, but what was it like putting out that first volume?
It was fantastic, really. It was only book 2 in the Killer VHS series. That series was still kind of going out into the world and raising awareness of what is Killer VHS? And gratefully, the first book did really well. I'm grateful to Sadie and Ashley from Nightworms. They selected it in their Nightworms December book box. So a lot of readers received it through that. And gratefully, yeah, the response was super enthusiastic and people really connected with Candy Cane in particular, which was fun to see and really kind of reinforced my approach to the second book of cool, let's make this really her story. Yeah, I'm so grateful that people responded because the sequel wouldn't happen if the first book wasn't successful enough. And now this is book 5 of Killer VHS. And because of the amazing writers that Alan has tapped for this series, it's kind of become a proven brand. And I'm just so grateful to be a part of that.
Can you tell us about the cover to Candy Cane Kills Again?
Yes. Because the first book is a little bit more of a murder mystery, you don't know who or what Candy Cane is. We were very intentional about this kind of silhouette on the cover and making it look androgynous, and you don't know what Candy Cane is. But for the second book, it was kind of all right, well, all bets are off. I want to put Candy Cane front and center. And I had that idea of in front of a stained glass window, bowing head in prayer with a weapon in hand, with an axe specifically.
Classic.
And yeah, Mark Village just knocked it out of the park, added some really nice details in the stained glass of angels with crying black tears and little candy canes in the edges of the frame. And Candy Cane just looks like exactly what I would hope of, just you're on board for this, for this vengeance streak. And it's the kind of cover that, frankly, I feel like only an indie publisher could get away with.
Yeah.
It's pretty
it's
intense.
eye-catching, for sure.
Yeah. So, and seeing both covers side by side always is a beautiful thing, to just the evolution of that character. Like I said, from being on the periphery of that first book to center stage in the second one, I'm really grateful for the work that he did to realize that in that incredible artwork.
Are you ready for a quick holiday quiz?
Let's do it.
Do you celebrate Christmas at all?
I do.
Okay. These questions will be a lot more apt. Fake tree, yay or boo?
I'm cool with the fake tree, but especially because my girlfriend has a fake tree that's all black. And I'm like, that's rad. It's it's like a goth Christmas.
You don't want a living tree that's all black.
Yeah, that's not going to last long. So yeah, I'm okay with the fake tree. It's, We're trying to conserve the environment.
I keep telling people they replant those trees. It's not like when you buy an apple, it's like, oh, it's one less apple in the world. No, they'll be back.
Oh, that's fair. That's good to know.
I mean, they literally farm them. Okay. Eggnog. Yay or boo?
I gotta go boo on eggnog. I'm sorry. It's just a little too creamy, milky, eggy, noggy.
No such thing. But moving on, open presents on Christmas Eve or Christmas morning.
So I don't remember if this was my family tradition or just in general as a thing, but like opening one present on Christmas Eve or opening the presents to each other on Christmas Eve, but saving Santa's presents for Christmas Day. Yeah.
Very nice. Which brings me to my next question. Santa or Krampus?
Oh, I mean, gotta go Krampus. That's...
You kiss ass.
Yeah, kiss.
Favorite Victorian ghost story?
Ooh. Just like in general, it doesn't have to be a Christmas one?
Yeah.
There's an M.R. James story. The name of it is escaping me, but involves like someone playing Moonlight Sonata. And I just remember reading it and being creeped out all to hell.
Fantastic. Final question, and then I have a bonus round. Creepiest Christmas Carol?
Ooh. Creepiest Christmas. I think what I discovered from writing the first Candy Cane book and plugging those lyrics in was God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen has some weird lyrics, and it's very creepy.
Yeah, not a lot of Christmas carols name check Satan, so that's a goodie.
That's a hard move.
Yeah. I mean, again, reason for the season.
Yeah.
Bonus round. Would you like to try to adapt on the fly a Hallmark horror story?
Oh.
And I realize this is your business, so, I'm not trying to get like a free script out of you. But do you think you could adapt a classic Hallmark Christmas movie into a horror story?
Oh, I want it so badly.
Okay, I've got a little Hallmark Christmas movie plot generator here. Give me a number between 1 and 9.
6. 6, 6.
You want to go sixes across the board? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, a widowed doctor goes on a Christmas scavenger hunt and finds a new father for her children. That's what 666 you got.
Okay.
You have the stage, sir.
Okay, a widowed doctor goes on a Christmas scavenger hunt and finds
a new father for her children.
Okay.
Jesus, that's horror right there. I mean, that very little effort needs to be expended to
well, clearly
bring out the creep factor.
The new father is a snowman. And so it's going to be kind of a cross of like...
Snow dad is better than no dad.
Exactly.
As we learned from Jack Frost.
He's chilling and killing. But she doesn't know he's a snowman. When she meets him, he seems normal. But when she's not looking, he turns into like an icebound killer who is obsessed with protecting his new family. So it's kind of like Jack Frost meets the stepfather. And he's murdering people to protect his new perfect family because this lonely snowman has never had a family.
I love that.
I'm a big defender of the horror movie Jack Frost, and I was on Scream King's podcast last year to talk about it. And they're going to have me back this year, which means we're going to have to watch Jack Frost 2, Revenge of the Mutant Killer Snowman. And that one is set in a tropical setting, and I have not seen it. So I'm curious to see how the snowman does what he does in the warm weather.
Just so we know we're not talking at cross purposes, I was referencing Jack Frost, the Michael Keaton movie, where the guy dies and comes back as a snowman.
Yes, I know.
Which is still a horror movie.
That's the Snow Dad is better than No Dad, right?
Snow Dad's better than No Dad.
Maybe when you go back on Scream Kings, you pull out the Michael Keaton jam.
Yes.
It holds up.
Allegedly, it was supposed to be George Clooney, and the Stan Winston puppet for the snowman looks more like George Clooney than it does Michael Keaton.
But both went on to become Batman. Interesting.
To fight Mr. Freeze.
To fight Mr. Freeze! Snowbat is better than Batman. All right, fantastic. So, Brian, what are you working on next?
My next novel is coming out September 2025. from Poison Pen Press, and it is a slasher murder mystery set at a spiritual healing retreat called Breathe In, Bleed Out. I'm very excited for that one. It's set in Joshua Tree, California. It's going to be a fun one.
Where can our listeners find you online?
These days, I'm mostly on Instagram, kind of migrating from Twitter towards Blue Sky, all at Brian McWriter.
Thanks for hanging out with us again.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff. This was a blast.
Please subscribe and follow. Links are in the show notes. You can find me at jeffccarter.com and hit the link to pick up my collection, We Bleed Orange and Black, 31 fun-sized tales for Halloween. Until next time, stay spooktacular.
Alas, and did my Savior bleed, and did my sovereign die? Would he devote that sacred head for such a worm as I? Was it for crimes that I have done he groaned upon the tree? Amazing pity, grace unknown, and love beyond degree. Well might the sun in darkness hide and shut his glories in, when Christ the mighty